Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and distinguished guests. As you know, the title of my speech is called All in Your Power. Now, what does this speech mean, and what do I mean by all in your power? Well, I'll tell you what it means, and it will be very detailed, but I'm sure you get a lot out of it. Now, starting this speech, I want to give a particular quote that I think would be very good for you all to listen to. And the quote is this: that everything that happens to you, whether good or bad, is a result of your thoughts and your actions. You just have to figure out why. I'll repeat that one more time. Everything that happens to you, whether good or bad, is a result of your thoughts and your actions. You just have to figure out why. Now, this particular quote might be a little bit confusing at first sight. What do you mean everything? Well, I'll tell you throughout the speech exactly what I mean. Now, why exactly am I saying this quote is very important? Well, it's important because I'm guarding it against a mindset that is infectious to the human spirit. And this particular mindset is called the victim mindset. You see, the victim mindset is responsible for the greatest calamities that humanity has ever suffered. What is the victim mentality? The victim mentality says that the world owes me something, that I have been done wrong, that someone should pay for the wrong that's done to me, and in making sure that person is held accountable, I therefore can feel better about myself because I deserve it, because I should be entitled to that. Now, why is this particular mindset very destructive? It's destructive because it removes responsibility from the person. It falsely assumes that someone else is responsible for the wrong that's done to them. And this particular mindset is responsible for all the wars that you can think of. The greatest example for this mindset is in Germany. In history, we have seen that the German army lost World War I, but they perpetuated a particular myth. And the myth was that we were stabbed in the back. Someone came within and said that we should lose the war, and we're going to sabotage the war by making it such that you will not be able to win the war. And the Germans believed this hook, line, and sinker because they felt that their prestige, their honor, their glory was taken away from them by the Allies, and someone needed to pay. Now, when one looks at the historical record, however, they can see very clearly that the Germans were responsible for losing the war, no one else. And the historical record is as follows. We saw that leading up to World War I, that there was an assassination, famous assassination by the Black Hand of the Serbian. They assassinated the Archduke of Ferdinand of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. This caused cataclysmic waves all throughout Europe because many of the Allies were trying to figure out what would be the next step to this war that was going to happen. This started the July crisis, where European powers were trying to negotiate and settle an agreement not to cause a world war. However, Germany, on July 5th of 1914, gave a blank check to Austria, saying that they will back Austria for whatever military endeavor they were going to pursue. This made a regional conflict between Austria-Hungary and Serbia into a world war. And the Allies had no choice but to declare war against each other because a great power like Germany entered. And we saw throughout the war that Germany lost battle after battle, not because someone stabbed them in the back, but because they made tactical errors that led to their enemies having a deep advantage over them. One tactical error was the fact that they were not able to marshal the supplies and the food that the German army needed to sustain to fight the French in Verdun and Somme in 1916. They were also not able to get the food from the Eastern Front to feed their soldiers with the counteroffensive in 1918 against the French and the British. They were also not able to commandeer their allies, the Ottomans and the Italians, to fight as a unified force against the Allies. They were all disintegrated. And the Germans were not able to get the morale of the German people behind the German army to fight the Allies. All of these things have led to the demise of the German army. History is the greatest testament and teacher of why the Germans lost. However, the Germans did not see this. They said that someone stabbed them in the back, and someone has to pay. And unfortunately, a fellow named Adolf Hitler of the Nazi Party said that that someone were the Jews. The Jews are our misfortune. The Jews are the reason why we lost. Something needs to be done. They must pay, and they must pay dearly, because they are responsible for us losing our prestige around the world. And what followed from that is the most horrifying, cataclysmic event in human history, where 6 million Jews from all over Europe were assassinated, were completely destroyed and perished from the German army. This was caused not by the great guns and armies of the German army, it was caused by a particular mindset that the Germans held. It was caused by the victim mindset. If they had only taken responsibility for their losses, there would be no Holocaust. Therefore, the quote that I just gave today is extremely imperative to guard against any sort of atrocity to happen again to human history. Now, you're looking at me and asking me, well, how do we do it? What can we do to avoid the victim mindset? And I'll tell you that there's 3 steps that I'll give to avoiding the victim mindset. The first mindset is the recognition to know that your thoughts, whether conscious or unconscious, determines your actions. Your thoughts, whether conscious or unconscious, determines your actions. Your actions are what lead you to doing the decisions that lead you to having the injury or good to happen to your life. No one else can do that except what you think, because what you think determines what you do, whether conscious or unconscious. That's the very first step to the victim mindset to be destroyed. Your thoughts, whether good or bad, whether conscious or unconscious, determines your actions. The second step is that your actions in a consistent manner determines your character. Your actions in a consistent manner determines your character. Aristotle said in Nicomachean Ethics that continual action done over and over again in practical instruction will lead to one having the character needed to live a virtuous life. Your character is determined by what you do on a consistent basis. So therefore, if one wants to go ahead and improve their character, all one has to do is practice certain actions over and over again to ensure that they will have the right and proper character to live a virtuous life. That is the second step. And then the third step is the recognition and considering the 2 first steps to know that your world is a reflection of your character. Your world is a reflection of your character. Now, what do I mean by your world? It's very vague. What I mean is this: who you have in your life, who fits around you, who you get along with, who you have good times with, who you have no friction with whatsoever, is a reflection of your character. You have to look at all the people that you get along with. How are they as people? Are they good people? Do they treat other people? Your world. And in understanding these 3 steps, one will see the absolute delusion of the victim mentality. One will see that your world, who you are as a person, whatever happens to you, is your cause. It's because of you. It's because of what you're doing. And guess what? You have to figure out why that is. You have to understand what you have done. Because many times we think that it's not us, but you have to do the work to understand, what did I do to put myself in the position that I am in right now? And how can I make the necessary improvements and change my life? So folks, I conclude with this, that this quote, everything that happens to you, whether good or bad, is a result of your thoughts and actions. You just have to figure out why. It can be summed up in this speech. The greatest and most difficult part of that quote is the last part. You have to figure out why. It takes a lifetime to figure out why. But if you do the work and you take the responsibility to own who you are as a person, to own your thoughts and your actions, you'll never fall into that victim mentality. And if all of us do it as people, as a human race, we wouldn't have any wars. We wouldn't have any calamities. We wouldn't have any atrocities. We would understand that our actions and our thoughts are what led us to where we are. And we would have the courage and the nobility to make the necessary improvements to improve our lives and not wait on someone who doesn't have the responsibility to do the work for us. So I thank you for listening to my speech.